There comes a moment in life when you realize something powerful, something that changes the way you see yourself and the way you see the world. That moment is when you finally understand that your life is your greatest project, not your job, not your business, not your bank account. You, your mind, your habits, your skills, your character. And the truth is this: the moment you decide to make yourself your best project, everything else in your life begins to improve almost automatically. Let me ask you something important. Right now, at this stage of your life, are you actively working on becoming a better version of yourself every day? Or are you mostly reacting to life, reacting to problems, reacting to circumstances? Be honest with yourself. And if this question makes you pause, even for a second, I want you to do something simple. Go down into the comments and write, "I am my best project." Write it as a commitment to yourself. Because today I want to talk to you about one of the most powerful success principles I have ever learned in my life, a principle that has helped millions of people completely transform their careers, their income, their confidence, and their happiness. And the principle is simple. Successful people work harder on themselves than they do on their jobs. Let me repeat that because it may be one of the most important ideas you ever hear. Successful people work harder on themselves than they do on their jobs. Your job can disappear. Your company can change. Your industry can evolve overnight. But the one asset that will always stay with you, the one asset that determines your future more than anything else, is the person you become. I learned this lesson early in my life. When I was young, I was drifting. I had no direction, no special talents, no wealthy background, and no clear plan for success. I worked at labor jobs, washed dishes, loaded cargo on ships, and did all kinds of work just to survive. And for a long time, I thought success belonged to other people. People with better education, people with better connections, people who were smarter than me. But then something happened that changed my life forever. I discovered a simple idea. If other people can learn it, I can learn it. That single thought changed everything. I began to realize that success was not a matter of luck. It was not a matter of background. It was not even a matter of intelligence. Success was mostly a matter of personal development. It was a matter of becoming the kind of person who could produce success. So I began asking myself a new question every single day. What do I need to learn to become more valuable? That question became the turning point in my life. Because the marketplace pays you for value, not for time. You are not paid for the hours you work. You are paid for the results you produce and the value you bring. And your ability to create those results depends entirely on one thing: the quality of your thinking. That's why making yourself your best project is so powerful. When you improve your thinking, you improve your decisions. When you improve your decisions, you improve your actions. And when you improve your actions, you improve your results. It's a chain reaction. Better thinking leads to better actions. Better actions lead to better outcomes. And better outcomes lead to a better life. But here is something that most people never realize. Personal growth is not automatic. You don't become better just because time passes. In fact, many people stay in the exact same place mentally, emotionally, and financially for 10, 20, even 30 years. Why? Because they stop growing. They stop learning. They stop challenging themselves. They stop investing in their own development. And when that happens, life begins to shrink instead of expand. But the moment you decide that you are your greatest project, something extraordinary begins to happen. You begin to look at every day differently. Every book becomes opportunity. Every conversation becomes a lesson. Every challenge becomes training. You begin to treat life like a classroom instead of a battlefield. And this shift alone can completely change your future. Think about the most successful people you know. Entrepreneurs, leaders, high achievers. What do they all have in common? They are constant learners. They read more. They think more. They study more. They ask more questions. And most importantly, they never stop improving themselves. In fact, many top performers follow a simple rule that has been proven over and over again. They dedicate at least 1 hour every day to personal development. 1 hour reading, 1 hour learning, 1 hour improving their skills. Just 1 hour a day. That may not sound like much, but let me show you the math. 1 hour a day equals 365 hours a year. That's the equivalent of more than 9 full work weeks of learning every single year. Now imagine doing that for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Do you think that person will be the same as everyone else? Of course not. They will be operating at an entirely different level. Because while most people are distracted, scrolling, complaining, reacting, they are growing, and growth compounds. Just like money in a bank account, personal growth multiplies over time. The knowledge you gain today helps you make better decisions tomorrow. The habits you build today shape the opportunities you receive next year. And the discipline you practice today, determines the life you will live 5 years from now. This is why I always say that self-discipline is the master skill of success. Self-discipline is the ability to make yourself do what you should do, when you should do it, whether you feel like it or not. And nowhere is self-discipline more important than in personal development, because improving yourself requires consistency. It requires effort. It requires the willingness to invest in yourself even when nobody is watching. But here's the beautiful part. When you work on yourself, everything else improves. Your confidence improves. Your income improves. Your relationships improve. Your health improves. Your opportunities expand. Because the world always rewards people who are growing. Employers look for them. Businesses need them. Opportunities chase them. Why? Because a person who invests in themselves becomes more capable, more creative, and more valuable every year. And value is the currency of success. If you want a better life, become more valuable. If you want more income, develop more skills. If you want more opportunities, become the kind of person opportunities are looking for. And that journey always begins with a simple decision. The decision to say, from this day forward, I am my best project. Because once you truly accept that idea, everything changes. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop waiting for permission. You stop hoping that someone will come rescue your future. Instead, you take responsibility. You take ownership. You take control of your development. And that is one of the most empowering feelings a human being can ever experience. You realize that your future is not fixed. Your potential is not limited. Your past does not define you. The only real limit on your success is the amount you are willing to learn, grow, and improve. And the good news is this: growth is available to anyone. You don't need special connections. You don't need a perfect background. You don't need extraordinary talent. All you need is the willingness to commit to becoming a little better every single day. One new idea, one new skill, one new lesson, day after day, week after week, year after year. And if you stay on that path long enough, something amazing happens. The person you become begins to attract the life you once only dreamed about. But it all starts with a simple shift in focus. Instead of asking, what do I get? You start asking, what do I become? Because success is not something you pursue. Success is something you attract by becoming the person capable of achieving it. And that is why the greatest investment you will ever make is the investment you make in yourself. And in the next part, I'm going to share with you the powerful daily habits that can transform you into the kind of person who naturally attracts success, opportunity, and growth. But before we go there, I want to ask you one more question. If your life truly is your greatest project, what is the one thing you will start improving today? Write it in the comments. Your answer might be the first step toward a completely new future. Let me share something with you that most people never truly understand. Your future is not created by one big decision. It is created by small daily habits repeated over and over again. Success is rarely dramatic in the beginning. It is usually quiet, almost invisible. It shows up in the books you read, the skills you practice, the discipline you develop, the way you think when no one else is watching. Every single day, whether you realize it or not, you are either building yourself or neglecting yourself. There is no middle ground. Every day, you are either investing in your future or withdrawing from it. And the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is not intelligence. It is not luck. It is not background. The difference is daily habits. The most successful individuals I have ever met all share one powerful trait. They treat their personal growth like a daily responsibility, not an occasional activity. They do not wait until they feel motivated. They do not wait until life becomes easier. They simply decide that improving themselves is part of who they are. And when you reach that level of commitment, something remarkable begins to happen. Growth becomes automatic. Let me give you the first habit that can completely transform your life if you practice it consistently. Habit number 1, feed your mind every day. Your mind is like a garden. If you plant good seeds, you grow strong, productive ideas. If you neglect the garden, weeds grow automatically. And in the modern world, there are a lot of weeds competing for your attention. Negative news, endless distractions, social media scrolling that consumes hours of your life. Most people spend far more time feeding their entertainment than feeding their mind. And that decision silently shapes their future. Because the information you consume eventually, becomes the way you think. And the way you think eventually becomes the way you live. Successful people are extremely careful about what they put into their minds. They read books. They listen to educational audio. They study their industry. They constantly expose themselves to ideas that challenge them and push them forward. If you develop the habit of reading just 30 minutes a day, you will finish roughly 20 to 30 books a year. Think about that for a moment. Most people read maybe 1 book a year, if that. But someone who reads 30 books a year becomes a completely different thinker within just a few years. New ideas begin to connect. New perspectives develop. Opportunities become easier to recognize. Because knowledge sharpens your perception. And when your perception becomes sharper, your decisions become smarter. The second habit of people who make themselves their best project is this. They take complete responsibility for their lives. Responsibility is a powerful word. In fact, I believe it may be the dividing line between average living and extraordinary achievement. Average people blame. Successful people take responsibility. They do not blame the economy. They do not blame their boss. They do not blame their childhood or their circumstances. Instead, they ask a different question. What can I do to improve this situation? That question alone can change your life. Because the moment you accept full responsibility for your life, you gain full power over your future. When you blame others, you give your power away. But when you take responsibility, you take control. You begin to focus on what you can do instead of what you cannot do. And that shift in focus unlocks enormous creative energy. Suddenly your mind begins searching for solutions instead of excuses. Your thinking becomes proactive instead of reactive. And proactive thinking is one of the most valuable mental skills you can ever develop. Now let me share another habit that, separates high performers from everyone else. They set clear goals for themselves. This may sound simple, but it is incredibly powerful. Many people drift through life without clear goals. They wake up, react to the day, handle problems, and repeat the cycle tomorrow. But successful people do something different. They decide in advance where they are going. They write down their goals. They think about them regularly. And they organize their actions around achieving them. Why is this so important? Because your brain is a goal-seeking mechanism. Once you give it a clear target, it begins working consciously and subconsciously to move you toward that target. But if the target is unclear, your energy becomes scattered. Your time becomes wasted. Your progress becomes slow. Clarity creates power. And when you combine clear goals with continuous personal growth, your progress accelerates dramatically. You begin to notice opportunities that other people completely miss. You begin to make connections that others overlook. You begin to take actions that others are too uncertain to attempt. Because goals focus your mind. Now here is another critical habit that people who make themselves their best project develop. They surround themselves with growth-oriented people. You have probably heard the phrase that you become the average of the people you spend the most time with. And after decades of studying success, I can tell you that this is absolutely true. Human beings are highly influenced by their environment. The conversations you hear, the attitudes around you, the expectations people hold. All of these factors shape your thinking more than you might realize. If you spend time with people who complain constantly, eventually complaining begins to feel normal. If you spend time with people who avoid growth, eventually growth begins to feel unnecessary. But when you surround yourself with people who are learning, improving, and striving for excellence, something powerful happens. Their energy raises your standards. Their thinking challenges your limitations. Their actions inspire your progress. You begin to see what is possible. And seeing what is possible is often the first step toward achieving it. Now I want to introduce you to another powerful principle that can dramatically accelerate your growth. the law of incremental improvement. This law simply states that small improvements made consistently over time create massive results. You do not have to change everything overnight. You do not have to become perfect tomorrow. All you have to do is commit to getting 1% better each day. 1% better in your thinking. 1% better in your discipline. 1% better in your knowledge. 1% better in your habits. It sounds small, but the results compound in extraordinary ways. Within a year, you become noticeably stronger. Within a few years, you become almost unrecognizable compared to who you once were. And the best part is that this process builds confidence, because confidence does not come from positive thinking alone. Confidence comes from evidence. It comes from knowing that you are improving. It comes from seeing yourself grow stronger, wiser, and more capable over time. Every time you learn something new, your confidence grows. Every time you develop a new skill, your confidence grows. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your confidence grows. And eventually, you reach a point where you trust yourself. You trust your ability to learn. You trust your ability to adapt. You trust your ability to overcome challenges. And that self-trust becomes one of the most valuable assets you will ever possess. But here is the truth that most people must eventually face. Growth is not always comfortable. In fact, real growth is often uncomfortable. It requires leaving your comfort zone. It requires trying things you might fail at. It requires challenging beliefs that have limited you for years. Discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. Discomfort is often a sign that growth is happening. Every new skill feels awkward at first. Every new habit feels difficult at first. Every new challenge feels intimidating at first. But with repetition, what once felt impossible becomes natural. This is the incredible adaptability of the human mind. Your brain literally rewires itself based on the actions you repeat, which means the person you become is shaped by the habits you practice daily. And that brings us back to the central idea of this entire conversation. You are your best project. Your mind is your greatest asset. Your potential is far greater than you realize. And the habits you build today are quietly constructing the life you will live tomorrow. In the next part, I'm going to show you how to develop the mindset of unstoppable personal growth. The mindset that allows ordinary people to create extraordinary lives. And more importantly, I'm going to explain how you can start applying these ideas immediately so that your future begins changing faster than you ever imagined. But before we move forward, I want you to reflect on something. Out of everything we discussed so far, reading daily, taking responsibility, setting goals, improving 1% each day, which habit do you believe would change your life the most if you truly committed to it? Think about it carefully, because that answer may be the key to unlocking the next level of your life. Now let me bring all of this together, because there is one final idea that can completely transform the way you approach your life. And that idea is this: you must begin to see yourself as a lifelong work in progress, not a finished product, not someone who has reached their limits, but someone who is constantly evolving, constantly learning, constantly improving. The most successful people I have ever studied share this mindset. They never reach a point where they say, "I've learned enough." Instead, they remain curious. They remain humble. They remain hungry for growth. And this mindset creates an incredible advantage over time. Because while others become comfortable and stop pushing themselves, growth-oriented people continue expanding their abilities year after year. Think about how powerful that is. 5 years of continuous improvement can completely transform your life. 10 years of disciplined personal development can place you among the top performers in almost any field. But very few people commit to growth for that long. Most people start with enthusiasm, but they stop when progress becomes slow. They stop when distractions appear. They stop when life becomes busy. But the truth is that the most extraordinary results always come later in the journey. Growth compounds. Just like money invested wisely grows faster over time, personal development multiplies as your knowledge and experience begin to build on each other. A skill you learn today makes the next skill easier to learn. An insight you gain today helps you recognize opportunities tomorrow. A habit you build today strengthens your discipline for years to come. And suddenly, after years of consistent effort, people begin to look at your life and say something interesting. They say, "You're lucky. but what they are really seeing is the accumulated effect of thousands of small improvements. Success is rarely one big moment. It is usually the result of daily discipline that most people never notice. Now let me share another important truth. If you truly want to make yourself your best project, you must become comfortable with self-evaluation. You must regularly ask yourself honest questions. Questions like, am I growing? Am I learning? Am I becoming more valuable this year than I was last year? These questions keep you aligned with progress, because life moves quickly, and it is easy to fall into routines that no longer serve you. Self-evaluation allows you to adjust your direction before years pass by. The most successful individuals constantly reflect on their progress. They review their goals. They analyze their habits. They look honestly at what is working and what is not, and then they make adjustments. This ability to adjust is one of the greatest strengths you can develop, because the world is always changing. Industries change, technology evolves, opportunities shift, and the people who succeed long-term are those who continue adapting and learning. They refuse to become outdated. Instead, they upgrade themselves continuously. Now, here is something very important that I want you to remember. Your self-image plays a powerful role in this entire process. Your self-image is the way you see yourself on the inside. It is the story you tell yourself about who you are and what you are capable of becoming. If your self-image says, I'm not good enough, you will hesitate. If your self-image says, I'm not talented, you will avoid challenges. If your self-image says, success is for other people, you will unconsciously limit your potential. But the good news is this: your self-image is not permanent. It can be reprogrammed through action. Every time you learn something new, your self-image improves. Every time you discipline yourself to follow through on a commitment, your self-image becomes stronger. Every time you step outside your comfort zone and survive the experience, your self-image expands. Little by little, you begin to see yourself differently. You begin to see yourself as capable. You begin to see yourself as someone who grows. You begin to see yourself as someone who can achieve meaningful goals. And once that internal shift happens, your external results begin to change as well, because your actions always rise or fall to match the way you see yourself. That is why making yourself your best project is so powerful. It transforms you from the inside out. You begin thinking differently. You begin acting differently. You begin expecting more from yourself. And when you expect more from yourself, you start producing more in the world around you. Now let me leave you with a practical challenge. Starting today, treat your personal development as a daily appointment with your future. Set aside time each day to grow. Read something valuable. Learn a new skill. Listen to educational audio. Reflect on your goals. Strengthen your discipline. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be consistent. Remember the principle we discussed earlier, 1% improvement each day. That is all it takes. 1% better thinking, 1% stronger discipline, 1% deeper knowledge, day after day, month after month, year after year. And if you stay committed to this process, the transformation will be extraordinary. One day you will look back and realize that the person you once were could never have imagined the person you have become. Not because of luck, not because someone handed you success, but because you made a powerful decision. You decided that your greatest investment would be yourself. You decided that your life deserved growth. You decided that your potential was worth developing. And that decision is where everything begins. So before we finish, I want you to do something simple but powerful. Take a moment and ask yourself this question honestly. If I truly made myself my best project, what would I start improving immediately? Would it be your knowledge, your discipline, your health, your mindset, your daily habits? Whatever your answer is, begin today. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Because every great transformation starts with a single step. And the moment you take that step, you begin moving in a new direction. A direction where growth becomes your lifestyle. A direction where learning becomes your advantage. A direction where the best version of you is no longer just an idea, but a reality you are actively building every single day. Remember this, your job may shape your income. Your circumstances may influence your path, but the person you choose to become will shape your entire destiny. So invest in yourself. Develop yourself. Challenge yourself. and commit to becoming the most capable, disciplined, and growth-oriented version of yourself possible. Because in the end, the most important project you will ever work on is you.